There we go.
Yes, and thank you for bearing with us and joining us on episode 27, where Legends of Tabletop. I, Leah Bond, interviews James Bixby about Battletech and all of the wondrous things.
Wondrous, many wondrous things.
Yes, many wondrous things to behold in the world
For
of
example,
Battletech.
I'm not such a toolbox that I broke the broadcast by hearing echoes. So I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. It was, in fact, all my fault. So, anyway,
Moving on.
Forgot what we were talking about when we were trying to with our abortive start. So let's just go from the top.
Yes. So tell me about the games that you have lined up behind you.
Oh, well, behind me is Battletech. It is a game of armored combat is how it advertises itself. It's the backstory behind it is that it is the 31st century and warfare has become dominated by bipedal, sometimes quadrupedal, but that's nuance, armored fighting vehicles called battle mechs. And armies of these things have been arrayed against each other for the better part of half a millennia in a pseudo-classical Machiavellian bit of politics, intrigue, and warfare to try and establish galactic dominance. That's like the innermost nutshell of what amounts to a intellectual property that is literally as old as I am. It's been around for 33 years. So
for the glory of the Emperor.
Or the Archon, or the Chancellor, or the Coordinator. There's as time went on and the series got more and more elaborate, it went from 5 factions to upwards of 55. So there are lots of powers that be that are trying to get their slice of the pie, as it were.
Okay. So would this be on like a hex board?
Exactly. The basic game, the game that comes in the box set, which is the large big box behind me, is played on a hex board with miniature stand-ins, quarters with a little pink arrow drawn on it, whatever you can use to represent it. Unlike other tabletop games where not only do you have to use miniatures, but your miniature has to be what is represented. Battletech as a game and as a rule system not only allows for proxying your pieces, it encourages it, because there's sort of this acknowledgement of, yes, we know that miniatures gaming is an inherently expensive hobby, and we as developers would much sooner you play the game than bankrupt yourself trying to play the game. So
okay.
But the other thing about it is that, and again, it's sort of as time has gone on across the 30 plus years of its existence, there have been other ways to play. You can play without hex boards. There is a role-playing game that, much like Shadowrun, which is developed by the same company, Catalyst Game Labs, formerly FASA, that uses a D6 based system. There's a space combat system, which is I don't touch it for a reason. I love it. I love the artwork. A great artist named Doug Shafi practically made everything involved in the space combat part of that universe, but it's over here and it's cumbersome and it's not for me. So
okay.
I mentioned that there was a Hexless Miniatures system, the role-playing system. I swear to God, there's more. Oh, and then of course, there are computer games like MechWarrior Online and the upcoming Kickstarter from, oh shit, did I lose you?
No. No, that was called I Yawned.
There's a recently kickstarted PC game from a company called Harebrained Schemes, whose second in command I interviewed in a show a while back. I want to say it was November, sweetheart. Yeah, November. And it's just called Battletech like everything else. So
Yeah. So you interviewed the person. So what did you interview him for? What was it? Was it a show?
His name was Mitch Gillitman. He is a production director for a PC gaming company called Harebrained Schemes, which is run by Jordan Wiseman, the original creator of BattleTech and also a legend in gaming history in his own right. Mostly, we talked about the Kickstarter was announced like the summer prior to when I interviewed him.
Yeah.
And it was going to launch like a couple of weeks after we broadcast. So I was mostly talking to him about things like, why Kickstarter, tell me about your history in the gaming industry, stuff you're talking to me about right now. That's our
thing. Yeah. So
it's a circle of life, Simba.
Exactly. Your interest in Battletech has led you to create. You have a podcast of your own as well.
Yes, I do. We call it Arbitration. The tagline is "Your last word in Battletech talk." I came up with that, I think, after a 7-hour alcohol bender. So it started off. The Arbitration as a podcast started off in the halcyon days of 2006, when a recent college graduate and his living girlfriend were playing. It was a spin-off game of BattleTech called MechWarrior Dark Age. It was part of WizKid's clicky warrior system, like Mage Knight or HeroClix.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend, now wife, said to me, "I want to go to a con. We are huge geeks and we've never gone to a con." So we went to a con. And as we were preparing to go to a con, we were very active in a small MechWarrior Dark Age community called the Solaris Virtual Arenas. And she said, "Hey, you listen to podcasts all the time. Why don't we do one?" So we looked into it. I talked to the guys who hosted it, Tom Keller and David, I can't pronounce his last name, were the two guys who ran this website, and I was like, you know what, sure, small scale, we'll host it for our community, why not? And so we went to Gen Con in 2006. It was Gen Con's 40th anniversary, I believe, or 39th. It was their 39th. The 40th was the next year. So we went, and we did the con thing, and I think my first reaction going to Gen Con for the very first time was a webcomic called Control-Alt-Delete, and they went to a PC gaming convention, and the main character said, "If an orgasm was something tangible that could be licked, this would be it. And it's time to start licking." And then a brief talk with the security team later, and a restraining order from the Dungeons and Dragons people because of a certain incident with the Beholder statue.
Excellent.
I went off and enjoyed Gen Con for the very first time, and it was a blast. And we recorded a 1-hour show for every day, and they were terrible.
Oh.
Oh no! I'm glad that those shows are lost right now. That they can't be listened to because we were god awful in the beginning. Yes.
I was going to say something, but I digress. On. Please complete this tale.
So anyway, we would do for the Solaris Virtual Arenas an arbitration series of podcasts every year. We went to Gen Con, which was we did it in 2007. We missed 2008 because Jennifer and I got married. So all of our con money had to go to a honeymoon, and Jen didn't want to do a honeymoon at Gen Con. Smart woman. Actually, that was never on the table, but so then in 2009, we went to Origins when she was 6 months pregnant with our son, Victor.
Wow.
And that was when things started taking the turn for the surreal, like we may actually become media personalities out of it. when we scored our first interview with Catalyst Game Labs art director Brent Evans.
Excellent.
And it sort of came and went. About a year went by, and we tried running the podcast on our own because the Solaris Virtual Arenas had long since shut down. Yes. And that was kind of the dark years because I knew nothing about web design or hosting my own shows or anything. And we tried, oh Lord, we tried. And then we got picked up by a guy named Josh Perrin, who was running a Battletech fan site called ourbattletech.com in 2006, and that allowed us to run the show monthly. Where he has been able to, and it's monthly for us because, first off, with Battletech, it's a slow production cycle. There's just not a whole lot that we can talk about week after week, unless we wanted to, like, MechWar Online could have been a boon, but there was another podcast called No Guts, No Galaxy, which kind of took the wind out of those sails for us, and they kind of dominate that conversation. And so they're just, if we tried to do it bi-weekly or weekly, we would just struggle for content. So once a month has been a good schedule for us to do that, and even sometimes we screw up. So
see, I'm trying to pace myself to do the interviews once per month. Mm-hmm. So this is a fairly new venture for myself as well. So.
Well, welcome to the world of internet broadcasting. So
yes. Absolutely. Last month, the interview was very kind. There was a nice gentleman that I spoke with for quite a long amount of time, and Jennifer as well has graced my my string of people that I have interviewed too.
Links in the description below.
Oh yes, please check the links in the description below. They will be there. Arbitrarily Yours is her dice bags that she does. She does a wonderful line of dice bags as well. And what else do you have going on, James?
Well, in addition to the podcast, which, by the way, you can find on ourbattletech.com, you can also find it on iTunes and the Android podcasting stores. You have to look for Arbitration Studios. We had to do that for trademark reasons, I think it was. I mean, I'd have to ask Josh about that. But yeah, you have to look for it on iTunes under Arbitration Studios. You should be able to find it. We also do a YouTube channel, which, we joined the podcasting revolution late because that's around circa 2002. So we ended up joining the YouTube revolution 2 years ago or last year. Last year. Thank you, sweetheart. And so when Let's Plays and YouTube becoming Time Magazine's Person of the Year was 5 years ago, I think. So, and we wanted to take a slightly different approach to our YouTube channel because it's mostly video game Let's Plays. But when you watch those Let's Plays from other channels, be it big names like Jim Sterling or Pro Jared, or small people like there's this guy that I like called Pertard. They'll either do criticism or they'll play bad games and make fun of them or whatnot. What Jen and I do really is when we play the games, it's kind of story time with James and Jen. We play the game. We'll talk about the game. We'll talk about our experiences with it in the past. Sometimes we'll digress into completely different territories. I mean, probably the biggest project on that was we did a playthrough of a video game called Alien Isolation, based in the Alien movie universe, which is probably like my second greatest sci-fi franchise outside of Battletech. And we ended up talking about everything under the sun, from the Alien franchise to it somehow segued into Battletech, to porn
like you do,
to alcohol, to raising kids, we're talking about my mother being an insane movie memorabilia collector. So I mean, that was that was 8.5 hours spread over the course of a year that we probably could have compressed if we thought about it, but it was a grand old time for us. So
excellent. So you have Let's Plays as well.
Yes, I do. Also on that YouTube channel, to bring it back to Battletech,
yes,
is there was a long time ago in the halcyon days of 1992, there was a Battletech animated series, a cartoon, a kid's cartoon. I mean, I think it was on for growing up in the Kansas area, it was on TV 62, if you remember.
Oh yes,
KSMO. So Saturday morning fanfare. So it's really hard to get a hold of the episodes digitally these days, but I managed to get a hold of them. And Mrs. Arbiter and I, my wife and I, we put together a series of Mystery Science Theater 3000-esque style commentary, sort of a combination of joke cracking and legit commentary on the production of this series and how it relates to sorry, my son's trying to interfere and and commentary on the production values, because it was one of the first television series, particularly a children's television series, to incorporate computer graphics as part of its production. Yeah, help him out, sweetie. So sorry, Kit, ladies and gentlemen.
No,
the XO1
okay.
Little Arbiter. Night, Betty. Off to bed with you.
Good night. So you've done riff tracks to the animated series of Battletech as well.
Riff tracks is generous. I mean, those people are talented.
Yes.
But
so you've done a riff tracks-esque along those lines, not to stomp on any copyright at all.
Well, like I said, it was more that's the closest thing to put to it.
Battletech tracks.
There we go. It's sort of the same thing that all of our projects are. It's just two goofballs having fun with one particular IP, one particular thing we love. So.
And that's the way that it should be. There are many fandoms that have led to the creation of a lot of great entertainment. So yeah. What would let's see. Speaking of Battletech, if I were to create a cardboard city the size of this room, how long do you think it would take you and Jen to destroy it?
Using the rules of the game?
Sure.
2
scale miniatures.
2 scale miniatures.
Yeah.
They always say that a single battle mech has enough firepower to level a city block. That's mostly hyperbole because there are some small mechs out there. That's the perceived power within the fiction of a battle mech compared to. They've also been compared to an entire company worth of conventional tanks, which later kind of sort of got retconned into a company of 21st century tanks, not a company of the modern tanks, because there are still good old-fashioned tanks in this universe as well. Regiment of mechs in game roll could probably get it done in under a day.
Under a day.
When you scale the time.
Yes. Oh, that's true. You got to scale the time too.
Because 1 turn is equal to 10 seconds. So.
Oh.
That's how it works. So.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was gonna say, one of the things that's been on my secret planning list is to build a gigantic city of cardboard boxes, dress up like Godzilla, and do it all pinup calendar style. Like, little Tyrannosaurus Rex going on there.
We're gonna have to get the wire rigging though to do the epic Godzilla drop kick from oh god, I think it was the 5th movie.
Oh yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about, the one where where the pterodactyl monster is like holding a third monster, probably the rock lobster, because I always associate giant lobsters with Godzilla for some reason. And then Godzilla does this like literally wrestling dropkick, only it goes from Osaka to Tokyo to do it.
Oh gosh. I've really got to revisit those. It's been a long time. Oh man. Because one of my friends from Microphones of Madness suggested this, and I tried to plot it all out as best I could, and then he's like, wait, no, I was just joking. It's like, dude, I had a photographer lined up, I had makeup artists lined up, it's like, no, it's just a joke.
Well, it's particularly important now because Toho's going back into the Godzilla making business after they made their every 20-year mistake when it comes to the Godzilla franchise and entrusting it to white people.
Yes.
By the way, was I the one that found it really creepy that the actor and actress who played Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in the second Avengers movie were the husband and wife pairing the Godzilla movie just a year before?
That was odd.
So I am nothing if not a Renaissance geek. So
okay. So yeah, Renaissance. You do you have an interest at all in classic D&D?
Vaguely, mechanically, yes. We the gentleman who was our dungeon master, unfortunately he's in the Air Force right now. And
that's right.
And a couple 3 years ago he got a very prestigious transfer to Germany, and as much as we tried, no one has been able to match his mastery as a dungeon master. I mean, that he could just weave tales, and he would roll with what players did with the best of them. He was a big believer in the type of dungeon mastering of it's your story, I'm just here to provide structure. Which was really important because he introduced us to actually playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I was my first character I styled originally as he was supposed to be a desert ranger it was in the Kryn universe, the Dragonlance universe. And I kind of modeled him, and this is sort of in hindsight, off of the Vin Diesel character Riddick.
Oh, okay.
And unintentionally so, but it ended up being that way in terms of how he was modeled and fashioned with all of his skills and perks and whatnot, and even how I initially tried to play him, because, white cisgendered male always has to play the badass character. And then something interesting happened. I developed a propensity for critical misses that involved throwing weapons halfway across the room.
As is known to happen.
To the point where I had throw and return spells imbued into my swords, giving up like 3/4 of my character's wealth to do so.
Oh, no.
And then, it gets better. I also developed a propensity for grievous self-injury. The ranger who was also supposed to find the traps ended up with a 20-session streak of being able to disarm the traps with his face.
With his face. Oh no.
Yeah. I would, rather than disabling the trapped box because we didn't have a proper rogue, I would end up like missing it by 1. So I would just roll with all these injuries. I think the two epic moments for that character that will always be remembered was first off when I accidentally released the hounds when I was trying to jam the gate shut. So I was beset by like 3 hellhounds, and I just was crying, "Oh God, no, my lady-loving bits!" as if one was biting my character's crotch. And then the other one was that I found a secret passage, then I found another secret passage, and then I found another secret passage that linked to the hallway we were originally in. So, and it was literally like 100-foot circle of secret passages that I found. And so I just kept circling them over and over, saying, "Hey guys, something around the bend."
Oh no.
Just kind of indicating
over and over.
After 17 levels of punishment, my character had finally snapped at that point.
Oh gosh. I can understand that. I mean, playing Call of Cthulhu as much as I do, yeah. Snapping's part of the good time.
That's part of the game.
Yeah. It's not a game unless you lose at least 15 sanity. So, yes. Oh my. Now you and Jen have you've got the Battletech the YouTube channel. You've got the now. Do you do live gaming broadcasts? Do you do any game broadcasts of you playing?
Mostly out of we don't live stream our games. Mostly out of a lack of knowledge how to, and also a lack of personal time to do that on a regular schedule. I mean, a little bit of inside baseball that I probably shouldn't admit on the internet. We are actually out of material for the YouTube channel, and we got to scramble to get a backlog going. So it's fortunate that happened over the holidays, so that way we could say, oh yeah, we're taking some intentional time off, and then we'll get right back to it. And now we really got to get right back to it. So,
okay.
So but there will be but yeah, as far as live streaming, I mean, I have a professional life. Jen is a mother of 2 very rambunctious kids, as was seen earlier. Yes. So it's to get a live streaming schedule is just a little it's a little out of what we can do at this point. So
okay.
But we do try to update regularly. So
excellent. Now I know that speaking of other properties, I've seen some fan fictions that may or may not be canon. Dan Abnett's work with Warhammer 40K. Are you familiar with those at all?
I am familiar with Dan Abnett's work, which, by the way, is not fan fiction. That is actual canon fiction for the Warhammer 40K universe. So there is I am familiar with Dan Abnett and C.S. Godot's work. My favorite for Warhammer 40K is actually a series called Caiaphas Cain by a man named Sandy Mitchell, which in the grim dark universe of Warhammer 40K, I want you to picture Edmund Blackadder in the middle of it.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, very, very, very dark humor, very gallows humor involved in that. So that's that particular character. So yeah, I'm familiar with that. Now, in the Battletech world, there's 30 years of game, there's 30 years of books to go with that. The very first novel, or second, depending on who you ask, there's actually a debate about that, was written by... excuse me, was written by a science fiction legend, Ardith Maher, called The Sword and the Dagger, which is really hard to find these days. In fact, I only just finally got a copy for the first time for Christmas. So, and there have been other authors that were involved. The great sainted Michael Stackpole is an author. Many would know him for his contributions to the Star Wars Expanded Universe before the great retcon of 2012. he wrote a series of books that many consider to be the backbone of Battletech fiction, including a trilogy of books called the Warrior Trilogy, which kind of sets up the foundation of the Battletech storyline, even though it's set in a time period where not a lot actually takes place. And then later was the Blood of Kerensky trilogy, which was the inciting event that kind of kicked Battletech into full-blown, this is a universe, not just an experience sort of deal. Another author and a personal favorite of mine, who is, his name is Blaine Lee Pardoe. He nominally he's a historian dealing both with true crime and World War I history, I think. I'm sure that he's going to yell at me and say, "No, it was two, asshole!" But
if it were one, make him come to Kansas City and see the memorial.
So anyway, but not only is a historian, but he wrote a large number of books for Battletech that first off, personally, are some of my favorites, and also had a great deal of influence in the IP as well. So there's some others. I lost my train of thought. So
it's quite all right. I was just going to ask, to your knowledge, are you aware of any fan fiction that might cross the borders into, let's say, Squad Broken?
I'm not familiar with Squad Broken, so I really can't say that.
Okay.
The closest thing to fan fiction that has crossed the boundaries, pardon my wife's backside, that has crossed the boundaries is there was a monthly magazine in the 1980s called Battle Technology. As many gaming properties had those at some point or another in the 1980s. And they weren't official, but they were kind of treated as semi-official. And then as time went on, the property changed a couple of hands. They were discarded. Well, the people who are involved in production now have been trying to seek out and integrate the authors of that of the stuff that was in those Battle Technology magazines and try to integrate them quietly, subtly, because technically those works were the property of the individual authors and not of the magazine publisher. It got a little wonky, and sometimes you got to track people down, and you can't anymore, or in some cases they've long since deceased. And so there have been a few cases where like game units, customized game units that were put in those magazines have made it into official technical readouts. It's an old example, but books like this that have artwork and rules. I'm showing a plane for some reason, but bear with me.
Oh, very cool.
Hold on. Stuff like this. There we go. That were custom units that were submitted to the magazine, where they've been able to take those and actually put them in official books finally after many long years. And they want to do more, but it's a question of being able to squirrel away the myriad of copyright issues and IP ownership and whatnot. So that's like the closest thing to fan fiction come alive that I can think of.
Okay. Yeah. So that would be a similar practice to the to the monologues that sometimes larger companies such as Chaosium will do. They have monographs they're almost drafts of different settings for their games. I'm somewhat of a fan of the In Times monograph that they have. It's a post-apocalyptic setting that I really enjoy, and I recommend it. But yeah, I just I appreciate that and all of the knowledge that you've brought today with the with the Battletech universe, which is something that I am not that familiar with at all. I've played MechWarrior on the Xbox.
Related, MechWarrior, related property. It's the computer game and the tabletop game. They're the same universe, but there's some delicate IP fuckery that goes on with that.
Okay.
Because the baseball card company Topps owns the license to publish Battletech in all of its tabletop forms, all of its, I like to call it all of its dice rolling forms. Microsoft bought the rights for Battletech in all of its electronic forms, all of its mousey keyboard forms, from FASA in 1992, sometime in the 90s. So separate, they're kind of separate but equal right now. To make matters even worse, right now, a company owned by Michael Eisner owns the Battletech rights for any visual media. So any movies or television series has to go through that, and I think it's called Turing Partners.
Oh my.
So yeah,
Turing,
there's
what was his name? The Turing man. Turing.
I think so, and I could be wrong on that, but my point is that the three parts that would make up your separate, or that would make up any multimedia experience, are with three separate entities right now. So it's a bit of a it's why, despite the fact that there's a kind of a 80s and 90s nostalgia revival, I don't think we're going to be seeing a Battletech movie, or whether it's in theaters or direct to DVD or a new animated series, as much as I would like one, anytime in the near future, because you got to get these disparate parts to talk to each other.
Okay.
So.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
really?
I'll tell you what, though, it made for great business law classes when I was in college. I am practically four courses, all 2 semesters worth of classes, and it all surrounded that for me. I got A's.
Oh wow, excellent! That's awesome. How you were able to.
Most people would choose things like, the Ford Pinto lawsuits, or there's a these days I'm sure that Enron or MCI WorldCom would be the big ones, but before that there was the people would always choose some of the classic business cases for law to for legal coursework, and I chose something different. I think that was like 3/4 of my grade.
What is the fact that you got to expose them to some type of different material?
Yeah.
So. Yeah. So, what do you think about the revival of the 90s material, 80s and 90s in pop culture?
To a certain part, I love it. And right now we're seeing everything that can go right and wrong with such things. Everything that can go right. Look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the poster child for how to do it right. It's Do I need to say anything more? Should I just put a statue of Iron Man up for us all to worship? And the funny thing is that was considered a humongous risk. And even before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we had the Lord of the Rings as kind of the prototype of all that. And then we can look at some of the things that didn't work out so well. Like, did you know there was a Gem and the Holograms movie that came out?
Yes.
And then it came and went almost in the same weekend.
Yes.
I haven't even seen it, and I almost want to watch the catastrophe. DC Comics, to give a stark contrast to Marvel, with their tried to reboot the universe 3 times now. They had the Dark Knight trilogy, which was loved, but in hindsight, everyone's kind of going, you know what? It really didn't hold up. Yeah. Or at least that's my opinion. I know some people will want to castrate me for that. Then there was the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds and its upcoming sequel, Deadpool.
Yes, which I eagerly anticipate. Deadpool.
So, you know, the Green Lantern movie is an experience that everyone kind of collectively agreed we're going to forget this happened. And then, which, you know, is, again, not so much the bad as it was the disappointing. And then and then Man of Steel is now the official first movie in a DC universe, and it sold gangbusters, but critically and among fans, it was hated. And so I just picture the Warner Brothers, the green light room, like, okay, critically we're getting our lunch eaten. How are we going to fix this? And here's this guy in the back that's going, maybe we could re-examine how we approach this character and be more faithful to the source material and the meta meaning behind everything that he is and does regarding the whole Jewish messianic immigrant story. And then he was subsequently thrown out of the room, and someone said, why don't we just throw Batman in there? Batman always makes us money.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry. That whole thing was, I like to call it trips to Branson. Takes a long time to get there, and it's not really worth it once you get there.
No, it's not worth the trip.
So, but yeah, I in principle, though, back to the original question, what do I think about the strip mining of my childhood, essentially?
Yeah.
Generally, I like to see it because I'm like, oh, dude, that's my childhood. And I take the good and the bad with it. So a good example of that is the Transformers films. I liked the first Transformers film. The second and third one, I kind of like
a little stale.
Well, you know, what I like to say is, let us remember that there was an episode of the original animated series where Megatron wanted to create a laser cannon on top of a Mayan pyramid that was powered by an oversized crystal and a volcano.
Yes.
And then let's put up the second and third Transformers films next to that, and you'll realize, yeah, that's kind of part of the course.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, I guess the things that I'm looking forward to in the immediate future that aren't that are strip mining childhood. Right now, there's rumors of a Voltron series that's going to be coming to Netflix as an exclusive.
Oh yes.
Which that's again another thing that makes me squeak. The one thing that I want to see that hasn't even been talked about, but in my mind is like ripe for the strip mining. There was a cartoon series called The Centurions. Are you familiar with that at all?
Oh, wasn't that before He-Man?
It's
a little before, I want to say, or maybe it's just the time of the networks airing it in my own childhood.
Yeah, all I remember is that it was that Family Home Entertainment released it was like a 40-episode cartoon series. Family Home Entertainment had made one tape of like 6 episodes, and I rented it from Blockbuster until the tape was stripped bare. So, but yeah, the basic gist is 3 military specialists. They've got special sci-fi suits, and they fight robots. So, yeah, that's it. And that spells movie to me. There's a movie in there somewhere. So, did I lose you? Oh crap! It froze. If I can still be seen or heard, the broadcast has frozen. Wait, are you there?
Okay, I am here.
We're back.
Yay.
Woo!
Okay, I was just wondering what is going on here.
All right, where did I lose you?
About 35 to 45 seconds ago.
Okay, Centurions, military specialists, with special suits, and they fight robots. If that doesn't spell movie, I don't know what is.
I know, that would be perfect.
So, and get Channing Tatum in there. I think that's his name.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say Burt Reynolds. One of the characters had this porn mustache, so I want to say Burt Reynolds, even though he's like 2,000 years old. So,
I'm sure he would happily take the role.
anyway.
He should take the role anyway. I would love to see him take that role anyway.
So,
yeah.
So what else?
And what else today? Star Wars or Star Trek?
What day is it?
It is Tuesday.
Star Trek today.
Why?
Because it is Tuesday. Tomorrow will be Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
I love them both. Warts and all. So,
Okay.
and I look at it this way. Every Star Trek will have its Spock's brain. Every Star Wars movie will have its Jar Jar Binks. So,
yes,
Jar Jar was not a new thing. Let's remember Wicket. And the Ewok movies.
Next question. Tabletop or video?
I am primarily video game. As far as my thing, I do love tabletop, and I try to squeeze it in as much as I can. Particularly with Battletech being a love of mine, I managed to get in a game of that about once a month, give or take. Not nearly as much as I would like. And then again, with our friend who is our game master being deployed elsewhere, we've been in a Dungeons and Dragons rut of late. It's sad. If anyone wants to adopt some lonely D&D gamers, please call us. Email address in the description below.
Oh yes. Contact in the description below. Yes. So absolutely. I think that we pretty much wrapped this up into a wonderful closing point.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me.
And well, thank you for being here. And through
and
technical difficulty,
it's
okay. It is quite all right, sir. And you and Jennifer have a fantastic night.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Just to review, if you want to listen to Jennifer and I talk about Battletech, ourbattletech.com. We try to record a new episode the third Saturday of every month, and it will be up a couple days later as our producer sees fit. So
excellent. Thank you so much, James.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.